Now, if you look at the autowala and his or her family and say just the way they can with a lot of ease use a UPI transaction, can one not aim in a similar way to provide education, healthcare, financial services, not just as payments, loans, savings, investments, access to the justice system. So then this provides a way of looking at AI through the lens of human-centric amplification. Of human-centric amplification. And this we have, what I would like to highlight is to give a sense of how we have, in our own little ways, tried to make progress in this. Close to a year ago, which happened when I visited Hyderabad between members of Sweta and Ozone Tel, and we said, why don't we work small language models? An opportunity was by Sweta and Ozone Tel. They went and collected the data sets, they put in the required compute resource, and they had the Chanda Mama stories, the Chanda Mama AI coming out. This is an excellent example of what I mean by solving problems, identifying challenges within the Indian context. And now we are aiming to take this up and in all Indian languages from students and researchers at IIT Madras. I'm often also asked, what can I do? It all seems very daunting. Where do I start? All great. Okay, there's a perspective. Where do I start? Now, if I'm going with a very simple quote, pick dream. Pick the solution that is nearest to your heart. Pick the challenging situation that really annoys you, that you just simply can't rest until you have solved it. Not just solved it, but driven innovation in it. Step 1 of the algorithm, pick your dream. Step 2, apply the UPI approach. Step 3, never give up. Thank you so much for your time. Can I come? I think I finished 1 minute before time. I was looking at it very carefully. So keep thinking, I think, give me for 1 minute, maybe take one question, or just stand around.
I really don't know how to thank you, Professor Raina, but thank you for this. I don't know, this is more than an inspiration. It's a call to action for all of us. It's a call to action for all of us, and I think we will be taking your words in the right spirit, and we will be building AI first society. Thank you, Dr. Bharat. As I said at the beginning, what he spoke as a keynote 7 years ago is a reality today. AI, when we were actually looking at old tweets to recollect what he said. He said, AI will become the electricity. And I said, a lot of people laughed at us saying, oh, what are you saying, AI becoming electricity, do you even know the difference between AI and electricity, all of that stuff. But I think we are well and truly on the way to, AI becoming a part of every domain. And I think we have, people from every domain in this conference hall. Once again, thank you, Dr. Raina. Thank you so much. For our next keynote, we have someone very, very special. We have Shikha Goyal Garu, IPS, serves as the Additional Director General of Police, CID, the Director of the TS Cyber Security Bureau. I believe it is the first cyber security bureau in the country. She is also the ADGP Technical Services, Director of TSFSL, and ADGP of the Women's Safety Wing. In her role overseeing the SHE teams and the Bharosa Center in Hyderabad, Shikha Goyal Garu facilitated smoother access to the criminal justice system for women and children. Throughout her career spanning over 29 years, her focus has been on making policing more citizen-centric, where every common citizen can approach the police without fear or apprehension. She has also worked to ensure that the best protocols and tools are deployed so that the benefits of effective policing are not only known but also experienced by the common person. Through her efforts, the process is streamlined, ensuring hassle-free pathways for those seeking justice and support in times of need. Ma'am, it is an honor for me to invite you onto this stage. One please, huge round of applause to Shikha Goyal Garu.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the Swecha team for having me here today and giving me an opportunity to interact with such a diverse crowd that is available here today. AI is the flavor of the season. So let me start by first confessing that I am no expert of AI. In fact, when Swecha asked me to come and speak here, I turned to ChatGPT to ask them that what should a police officer include in her presentation before an AI conference. And, within seconds, I got a long list of things which I should be talking to you about today. But when I looked at them, they seemed so precise and so futuristic that if I had included them in this presentation here today, I'm sure you would have caught me. And although, as I confess that I'm no AI expert, I'm well aware that AI is affecting everything around us. AI is affecting every aspect of our life. So, in my office, after a session on the ChatGPT, I now have letters, documents which are so well written that at times the officers themselves can't explain what is there in them. Also, at school, my children are now being asked to give handwritten assignments. So, AI is all around us. As a law enforcement officer, I am here today to explore avenues of education and learning which can make sure that Telangana Police is well equipped to deal with the emerging crimes enabled by the AI. So from the swipe on our mobile phones to predictive texts to the fuzzy feature on machines, AI has taken its time to reach where it is today. In the last 5 years, you can see that the 17. In the last 5 years, it has expanded into each and every which we can think of. And so, law enforcement is not far behind in the same. But it has taken what AI is today is not something which has happened overnight. It has taken almost 2 generations of scientists. What we will be in future is something none of us anybody in this room can predict what will be there in the future. Years back, Isaac Asimov, who is one of the greatest sci-fi writers, had predicted a world driven by AI-powered robots. About 20 years back, in this Hollywood movie, Will Smith had said, Can a robot write a symphony? Can a robot convert a canvas into a beautiful masterpiece? We all know the answer today. Yes, it can paint, it can create music, it can create videos, photos, whatever, and it's just started. So it took almost 80 years for Asimov's vision to come true. To solving various of mathematics, to acting as a tutor for our kids, to law enforcement. Everywhere, as I said, we are seeing AI. There is probably no space or sector which is left untouched by this revolution. However, with immense potential, there are always chances of risks. These are some of the news clippings on AI-induced chaos in the last few years. So from cancelling tickets of other persons on the airlines to impersonating as the CFO and withdrawing $25 million, AI is providing a fertile space for the criminals to act. Whether it is heads of state, as we recently saw in the case of Italian Prime Minister, or it is pop stars like Taylor Swift, whose income is more than GDP of many countries. One thing is clear, that the criminals who are using AI are fairly democratic in their choice of victims. Now, AI can act and is acting as an active piece to the criminals in committing existing crimes and also in the future new age crimes. I remember early in my career, time and energy was spent in apprehending pickpocketers. So pickpocketing was a big nuisance for way back when I joined. The criminal at that point of time had a face, had a territorial jurisdiction. Today, anybody sitting in Jamtara or Somalia can, within a few hours and with a few clicks, siphon off millions of rupees across the globe. AI is definitely going to help them in getting greater anonymity and greater speed in future. Law enforcement agencies across the world, including the Cyber Bureau here, are grappling to control these rapidly spreading crimes. So, issues like on the slide, for example, whether we talk about pornography, we talk about child sexual abuse, whether it is issues of social engineering, whether it is financial fraud. What we need are basically cutting edge technology and innovative solutions. So, the Telangana Cyber Bureau is looking forward for such maybe AI-enabled solutions and tools which can help us tackle this bouquet of crimes which are happening around. And therefore, the reason for us being here today with you. We are aware that neither do we have the bandwidth, nor the expertise, nor the knowledge, nor the resources to understand the implications of AI on crime, law and order, and peace in the society. And therefore, we need support of all of you here to see that there are solutions made, tools given, so that the law and enforcement agencies, we have a level playing field as far as catching of the criminals is concerned. And your collaboration need not be limited only to these spheres of crime. This is a figure which I have taken courtesy Interpol. These are very, besides the crime which I spoke about, these are 4 broad areas where AI can help us. Whether it is areas of recognition tools, exploration tools, which are low on the complexity scale, or whether there are issues of predictive policing. We have a wealth of data available with us, but how to analyze and use it for predictive policing. Or whether it is information sharing and communication, these are a little high on the complexity scale. The AI people, solution builders, can choose any of these or a combination of these to come up with solutions which can help. On the other side of the slide are the areas, for example, whether it is protection of our critical infrastructures, whether it is to uncover criminal networks, or law enforcement chatbots and whatnot. All these areas are where people like you can and help us in streamlining, in making things more effective, efficient, future ready. In the corner of that you have 1930. Well, 1930 is the cyber crime helpline of the country. Telangana was the first to have a fully functional call center for 1930. And today at the Bureau, we are struggling with the large volumes of calls which are coming. I hope somebody in this room comes us with a solution to see that our 1930 is more effectively, efficiently monitored, probably an AI model for running a call center. In fact, I believe that the US government has just very recently, maybe just tomorrow, 2 or 3 days back, has come out with a policy for all the government agencies with respect to AI. In fact, the word of the day in Washington, it talks about a chief AI officer. So all agencies are now going to have somebody designated as chief AI officer to ensure that the AI which is used across the government sector are used in a secure, in an ethical and a responsible manner. We also have recently the Prime Minister who had talked about, I'm forgetting the amount which he talked about, is that about India AI mission, a 1.25 billion investment aimed at improving the country's AI ecosystem. So, all of us are aware that we have to keep pace with the time. Although there are large number of people who say that AI is going to cause a lot of unemployment, millions are going to lose their jobs. But personally, I believe that it will probably create new jobs and new job roles, just like computerization did. Even at that time, the doomsday predictors had said that the machines will take over humans and the human jobs, but nothing like that happened. So I'm sure that nothing like that will happen with AI also. How do we collaborate? So I can offer from here that whether it is Swecha or any other agency, any of you who wants to visit the Cyber Bureau, you are most welcome to visit us to understand what we are doing and what are the challenges in future. You are also most welcome to share with us your presentation decks, or if you have any demos you would like to do, or if there are any proposals on your side. My team of officers are here who can help and guide you in taking them forward. But before I end, there is one thing which I would like to reiterate. The theme of this conference is AI for the society. And therefore, all of us here in this room, or all of us who are working in this sphere, have to collaborate with each other to ensure that the AI in future is for the use of the society. I request you to come up with solutions which are not only effective but also affordable for agencies to utilize them at large scale. After all of us owe it to the communities we live in and the communities we serve. Thank you.
To take up challenges and see how students that we are going to take. Some of these things. Yes. I'm going to be doing the talking. We've been talking about AI for society. We've been talking about India's discussion. Okay, but I think we'll keep it a little chatty. Can I have some Naveen? We'll have for these things. In the meanwhile, let me start introducing the panelists. May I first start with Surendra Tipparaju Garu, the Senior Director for Data and AI at Microsoft. Surendra Garu, can you please come onto the dash? Surendra Garu, Senior Director, Data and AI Architecture at Microsoft. May I invite Usha Paliyat Garu. Usha Paliyat Garu, angel investor, entrepreneur, has been with the VHub ecosystem. She has been driving rural, and urban entrepreneurship at VHub. May I call upon Sunil Abraham? Sunil Abraham, free software advocate to begin with. That's the first thing that I would say. But more well known to all of you will be Director of and Emerging Technology at Meta. Sunil, if you can please come out of that. May I invite Raj Satuluri Garu, Chief Technology Officer of Tech Vedika. You've seen the IoT demonstrations and all of that stuff. AI, ML, IoT, Tech Vedika has been a huge part of it. Raj Garu, thank you, thank you. May I invite Sujit Jagirdar, the Chief Innovation Officer of T-Hub. T-Hub requires no further introduction. All of you know T-Hub. So my job is to get AI India society. Let me see what I can do. Right? Please. Can I have 2-3 mics? Please. I'll just make a request whenever you speak first time. Please introduce yourself once more because sure. All right. Let's begin. AI India society. But before we go to the society and all of that stuff, AI is well into the Minsky's world of the 60s and 70s. Today AI is firmly here. We know that reality. I think one of the right? AI is reality today. He has suddenly developed a new algorithm or somebody invented a new mathematics. Compute power has increased. Again, not a breakthrough in terms of the compute power, but essentially raw increase in the fundamental on this. Chaitanya has been working on some of these things, and brute force approach, be relevant for India and all of that stuff. But before we get into those things, I would like to start with Surendra Garu. You are at Microsoft again, which means you're seeing what's happening in the business landscape and enterprise landscape, the challenges and other things. What do you see for India as both the opportunities and the challenges in terms of becoming the AI leader? Let's say if we want India to become the AI leader, what do you see as the potential challenges and opportunities?
Hello, am I audible for everyone? Okay. First and foremost, Shubhodayam, Shubhamadhyanam for everyone. And a fantastic forum to really celebrate AI today. And one thing, first half an hour, the key takeaways is there are 3 stories which I can share with my kids today in the journey about the relevance, about the context, and now as you rightly said, AI is nothing new. UBI story, the key there is the scaling, and that's triggered. But is this just, if it just as another tool, I think we will take up. Okay. It is going to be paradigm in terms of what I can do. And in terms of what's happening today in the market, irrespective of whichever country, whichever market we're talking about, traditionally any new technology has been approached with a readiness, just to go and get trained. I think it is not about the readiness, it is about awareness. What is that it can do for me is the question. we can say what I can do in here. I think that has to be a mental model or mental shift one has to start adopting. And especially for Indian context, how in Indian ecosystem, the Indian youth, we have the largest talent here, how they can really lead. When I actually put this in context of how it can be done, in any technology there are four parameters of success, okay, or four parameters to really ponder upon. I think a lot of students here, we all heard about IQ. Generally in academia we are introduced as IQ. And as we grow from academia to professional, we get into a lot of EQ. How do you handle your emotional quotient in terms of connecting with each other? These are the two personal and personality aspects of it. Any technology has to become, and I have to adapt and I have to embrace it. There are two more parameters which are very, very fundamental and which generally not talked upon in a larger forum. One is the social quotient. Okay. In terms of the amount of population, amount of societies, amount of communities which we have, what is the social relevance of any technology is the most important aspect of it. And when I was looking at UPI, why UPI has become so relevant and so successful? Because it has elevated the social identity of every person, of every Indian. That's the fundamental key difference to the success. So any AI technology which we wanted to implement, we want to represent, first it has to bring the social context, social quotient in every person and everyone who is attempting to do that. Once it helps me in terms of establishing my social identity, it increases my social awareness, it increases my social quotient, then I will be slowly start trusting that. And fourth aspect, once the social thing is established, it has to be very, very relevant to way I live and way I conduct myself. That is where the CQ comes into the picture, which is called cultural quotient. It has to be very much relevant. When I saw the demo of the IoT, here it is it will be adopted here because it is basically talks to me and then responds to me the way I conduct myself, my life in the society. So I think the key challenges or the opportunity of any company, any product, any AI revolution is to while we are
Still, you're wearing multiple hats. You're the director that's quite relevant to data that's produced or data that's required to build these open source models and stuff, right? What are the potential challenges that you see in terms of building these data sets in the country? Now, India these data sets in the country. Now, India is quite diverse, your views on some of this so that we can, build a better AI for the country.
The free software or open source software hackathon, perhaps I should start with that piece, which is what is meant in free and open source software. And it has happened from the very beginning. Mark Zuckerberg was not a, and every year we publish a state of open source. We have released 650 open source or the same tent, free software or open source software is a very powerful concept where you will see the same idea in the manifesto of the CPIM and the same idea in the manifesto of the BJP, and both of them will give separate ideological arguments for why open source is important for the country. So in the same movement, you will have large capitalist mega corporations, and in the same movement, you will have a small socialist cell as well. We're all part of the very same movement. So that's the first thing, that it is in a world where increasingly we feel divided, that you are different from me. Open source is still that very powerful big tent which brings us all together. But it is very connected to the question that Praveen is asking about privacy. So suppose you're using a proprietary software like WhatsApp, and as WhatsApp, a proprietary software company like Meta, an open source project, which is Signal, proprietary product. Then more recently, what is encrypted? But when we did that, we did one more, code verify. So what does code verify do? From your browser itself, you can verify that the code running on your computer is exactly the same code running on somebody else's computer, so that there is no targeted backdoor that Meta has put into your software to spy on you. So how to verify that there is no targeted backdoor? Only way to verify this is to use this project, one of the ways, and this project Meta has released as an open source project called Code Verify. So open source and privacy are very, very closely connected. If you don't have open source, then usually you cannot be 100% sure that you have privacy. So that is a very important piece. But what is the situation in India? India has a new law enacted in the middle of last year. It's called the DPDP, Digital Personal Data Protection Act. In this law, they have tried to do what Professor Raina said, what engineers do. They tried to say, so that was the three that the policymakers had. So very strangely they say, if you voluntarily put your personal data voluntarily put into the public domain, then you need consent. So at least India has quite a firm basis to protect the rights of citizens, and all corporations, big or small, hopefully will comply with the obligation under the law. So I will end off by connecting this back to one of our projects, Llama 2. It is a near open source model. Near because there are some big distinctions from the standard open source licenses, which people will complain about, and they should complain about. But the advantage of using Llama, I'll first start with the advantage for us. When we released it, we had released the code in Python. It was not very fast. One developer called Andrei Karpathy, over a weekend, re-implemented the same code in C, became 4 times faster than us, and we ourselves took his C implementation back into our servers to use. Obviously, free software is good for the capitalists, that much is clear. But the more important thing is, once you made it so small and you could run it on small devices like a Raspberry Pi or a Pixel or even your laptop, then you can disconnect from the internet. And you can ask Llama any question, and now there is a whole series of small models like this, which are offline models, that completely protect your privacy. Nobody will ever know what question you had asked the model, because sometimes regulators in their enthusiasm will go too far. For example, the FTC in the US at one point thought that every single prompt used against OpenAI could be an attack. So they asked OpenAI to submit the database of all prompts to the FTC. And that would be a horrifying thing if you had asked some embarrassing question to OpenAI. So this is what is important, that there are multiple rights. These rights are often in conflict with each other. For example, we have a right to information. That right is in conflict with the right to privacy. And we have to be part of the policy-making process so that our lawmakers make laws which solve this double optimization or double maximization problem.
Running both the hats, Meta and the free software and everything. No, but I know it's actually using Llama 2 and other things. There are workshops happening, we're developing some of it on that stuff. Also remember, maybe Chetan was saying, 20 years ago we could not have imagined free software, Microsoft and Facebook sitting on the same stage talking about how open source is helpful for the country. It's changed time, so that way it's great. Right? So thank you. Now with these things in place, right? With corporations, including corporations like Microsoft, Facebook, releasing some of these models, open source, all of this stuff. I think it's a great opportunity for startups as well, right? To be able to utilize these things. I know there's a huge data problem. We'll get to that. But maybe if I can ask, Sujeet, you're at T-Hub. How do you see this as an opportunity for startups? You don't need to build your own models right now. If you want, you can, but as Sunil was talking about, we have lots of open source models available right now. Data is a problem, we'll get to that, but can leverage this thing. How do you see, how can this ecosystem be nurtured in that sense, and especially in Hyderabad, Telangana, right? If we want to, let's say, become the AI capital, what are the potential pitfalls, challenges, opportunities that you see with models also being available, the open source models being available? How do you see this for startups? I'm sure some of these people would want to take this opportunity and build something out of it as well.
So I hope I'm audible, right? Okay. So Andarki Namaskaram. So first of all, thank you, Praveen, and thank you, Sweksha, for having me here. In fact, a lot of people know about T-Hub, but let me spend a couple of minutes more about T-Hub. T-Hub is the world's largest innovation hub. Not sure how many people know about it. Second thing is, I don't know if you've been to that place, you would find that there are a couple of other entities also in and around. One is T-Works, and there is another tower that is coming up behind called Image Towers. So T-Hub itself has got about 450 plus startups right resident in the building. And T-Works, that is next door, is the India's largest prototyping center, right? And then Image Towers that is coming up right behind is going to be one of the world's largest AR, VR, VFX gaming solutions setup, right? Just coming to your point, Praveen, about what are we doing here, making this place Hyderabad unique model. Now, leave that aside. Let me continue the story that the professor was talking about. So he spoke about the untold story of UPI. There is a bit more about the untold story about UPI. The UPI stack that was built had a significant contribution from startups, right? So the sourcing of a lot of applications happened from startups. There's also another application, I don't know how many people remember, I don't think we can forget, called COVID application. You guys remember COVID? Right, so nobody can forget COVID application. Very interesting thing about what we have done to the world. I've seen people traveling. Any one of us carry COVID certificates? No, right? I hope I heard that. No, right? So the point is, if you lose a certificate in the US, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get the certificate. And we never lost any of the certificates unless somebody had a problem. So this was another technology export that, along with startups, India did, to the world. In fact, the other point about Hyderabad and Telangana, again, because you brought up that point, Hyderabad is the pharma capital of India. Hyderabad is the pharma or rather vaccine capital of the world. So, I mean, if you look at sector by sector, there are so many sectors where there is one transformation is happening, and Hyderabad has been contributing both to India and to the world. In fact, in that process, we have attracted Microsoft and Meta, and I'm sure that's a long list, right? So, as of now, 25 to 30% of foreign companies that want to come to India are actually coming to Hyderabad. And this is something that I am not saying it is NASSCOM's report. I'm sure you can go and check it out. So where I'm coming from is the opportunities exist. You don't have to look outside, beyond, say, India. I'm not saying you have to drop your plans if you have any, but there are opportunities right here. There are support systems that are available. I know there was this question about, it is just one T-Hub or, one of those entities, maybe V-Hub, etc. But both the governments as well as the institutions like ours are trying to see how we can replicate this model across different segments or sectors. For example, in colleges, many of you are probably still studying in colleges. Some of the colleges have already taken that responsibility to build innovation hubs within your colleges. And some of them have approached us, some of you have already the talent required, infrastructure required. All that might be required is to really go on and build on those. Now, when it comes to technology challenges or issues, I think both my eminent panelists have actually talked about data. In fact, I was in Delhi last week attending a seminar or a symposium on healthcare. The biggest challenge in India, and this is a challenge for all of you youngsters who want to pick the problems to solve, right, is really to look at healthcare. So, again, there's lack of data. We were just chatting a little while earlier. There's lack of coherent data. Of course, data is available, but it is not available publicly. If a startup working in a healthcare domain wants data about clinical data, or they want data about patients, you have to approach 100 different hospitals or clinics to get validated data. So that's a challenge. So one is, how do you build applications that addresses that? Just to let you know, the government of India and of course local government is actually building something called UHI, So on similar lines to UPI, unified healthcare infrastructure, and that is going to be equally massive. It is being touted to be much bigger than UPI, where you unify, stratify data for patients. Patients are nothing but people like us, who go to the hospitals. So that is going to be an opportunity I would request all the youngsters to watch out for, because if somebody is in Nagar Karnool or say Adilabad, where do they rush if they have a critical issue? Everybody comes to Hyderabad. How do you make the tertiary care, or rather the primary care? Tertiary care is what we have offering here, which is like the Apollo hospitals, etc. The primary care facilities. How can technology, the same AI, which actually solved one of the problems that was demonstrated, can take up a challenge around healthcare? This one opportunity that I clearly see that is in front of us. So the other point is that when we come to the entities like T-Hub, we have people from 16 years to 62 years as the founders range. So no bar. Really, it is about the idea. It is about the problem that you want to solve and the technology that you want to pick and adopt. Exists in front of us. You just need to walk in and build on it, and we provide a lot of support from ideation stage till you are able to raise funds. So one of the motto we carry is, we want to create job creators rather than job seekers. I'm sure all of us, each one of us innately want that to be the case. So there is tremendous opportunity. Of course, there are challenges, but very confident if we have delivered UPI and CoWIN, I'm sure UHI and many more would follow. So, I can only wish good luck to the group here.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. In fact, Professor Reina, with told story or something like that. So, so with the incubators, you're an angel investor yourself, right? What is the message that you would perhaps give? Because you've seen a lot of people come and try, and some succeed, some perhaps fail, right? What is it that you see? What is the message that you what is it that you see? What is the message that you would want to give if somebody wants to get into this?
I see like 1, 2, 3, I can count on the. So it's nice to see a lot of girls and women here. So thank you for that. Let's start with to add is India AI differently, right? Just for my information sake, going to Google and say, what is AI use cases for different societal use cases, right? And I kept noticing the first 10 were always US case cases, UK case cases, or in a few cases, somewhere in Australia. The Indian cases were like the 30th or 40th number. I started counting after the third or fourth search. And all of them, none of them were for a 1.4 billion type of database. So any use case that we develop here will have to be for that kind of a database and with a diverse database. Let me take a simple example. The government is developing something for languages in India, right? One of the best use cases somebody suggested was that we can use it for translating government documents, government information into will not be available easily. That information is not very available easily simply because he has typed in the data, searched through 10 different websites. Half of them will not be, my Telugu is not that great, but even I can make out that the translation is little off. And you have such, if the simple language translation can be made so that the person in the last mile of India can get that, understand the scheme and apply for that scheme. That's the best use case you can start with now, right? Simple things like the Right to Information Act. Why should there be one person sitting somewhere in some office making that decision? There is in fact a startup which is working on that anywhere in India you can put in the information and the AI tool answers the question. You don't have an AI officer having to answer the question. Believe me, most of the time the AI officer has got many other things to do and he's not interested in replying to that, the RTI officer. So let there be an AI tool that's building that. Simple things like this, if you can build and execute it, the UPIs and UHIs will have the big technicians doing it, but let's have some startups build legal, agri, health, education. Taking off from what Sujit said, there is telemedicine that's being talked about, right? One of the reasons it's not working is because there is enough data around women health. And most of the time, the women health which is the last priority in the family. So the data sets around that is not available. One of the entrepreneurs that I'm working with, is trying to develop data for women around menstrual health, right? And that, she's developing data, she's not talking about building an AI on top of it. Right now, she's just developing the data. Can we, with different, sorry to disappoint, but many, not all women are the same. We have different health problems and different issues, and different genetic compositions lead to different issues. So if a person is suffering from a certain type of disease in Telangana, the same disease will not occur in Nagaland. There is a different issue there. Can we therefore have the data for each place? And that's something that a startup is working on. Can you build the data sets? Indian data sets will be very different from foreign data sets. And please, if you can have startups which are giving data, there's money to be made there too. Because Meta and Google are not really sharing data with us. So anybody who's willing to make data and sell it, money to be made there also.
Well, in fact, that's where Sricha is doing a lot of work, where we're probably, getting into a tough war with, Meta and others, but I hope nobody minds. We are going to create these data sets. In fact, this data set is going to become open source. Right? We are just working on a licensing model to create and release this. And I was talking about, some sort of attribution should go back to people who had contributed to this, right? And this was not built by one company. This was not built by a few engineers. This was built by tens of thousands of people coming in together to contribute data sets. In fact, over the next few months, this is the focus of Sricha. We are going to be releasing a lot of data sets from agriculture to healthcare to all of this stuff. But I'll come back to this because there's a lot more question about data. For example, all of you are mentioning this. If I'm a hospital, why should I share my data? What am I getting out of it? But we'll come back to this. We'll come back to this in a bit. But I'll go to Raj. Raj, as a CTO of one of these very few firms, it is that I know of, which are really working on AI ML projects, products, services. Can you give us an example, or have you seen projects where AI is being used to solve societal problems, where AI, not just the Soras and the ChatGPTs, but something that can directly solve a social problem? Have you experienced anything like that? Any projects like that would you like to share with us, Raj?
Sure, Praveen, thank you. Thank you, Sricha, for this opportunity. We are proud to be working with Sricha. So, first of all, what I want to say is, I really thank Microsoft, Meta, everybody here, because we use their models, right? So what I really as a startup feel is they build the basic models. We are able to use them in retail and solve different problems. So I want to thank them. One thing I want to say is, social problems are everywhere. So we have one customer in the US. What they do is they work in providing jobs for the low healthcare jobs. So these jobs are mostly from Mexicans or the blacks or low poor, right? They basically take up the jobs, cleaners, janitors, things like that, right? So what they said is, this company does a job screening for all the employees for healthcare companies to hire such workers. The problem here is when you plan these interviews, so the guy is so poor, he doesn't know how to come to your office, he doesn't have commute, he cannot come at the right time, and when he comes, the interviewer will not be there. So it's a big challenge to make sure that the interviewer and interviewer are both present when the interview has to take place. It's a real societal problem, right, in Philadelphia and other regions. So what we said is, okay, we can give them an opportunity where they can do the interview at home, right? They will go to a web, there will be questions and they'll answer. These answers are not like ABCD, right? They are like interpreting how somebody thinks through. So somebody says that, what will you do if you find a difficult patient? So there are different ways, right? I'll talk to them, or I'll ask my manager, I'll talk to my peers. There are so many ways you can judge on how a person reacts to a problem. So what we have done for this particular stuff is, we have from the interviewer the list of 10, 15 points that somebody can say when this kind of question is asked. What we simply did is we created a recording. The user simply records his response for that. We simply do a semantic matching thanks to the tools we have, and we tell which of them really match, and we get information back to the interviewer. So the interview process is done quickly. So what I believe is wherever technology can help the poor to make a difference, it will really help. One final thing I really want to say is, when I see all these LLM, GenAI, the way I see them is, there are different small tools. Some tools can convert voice to text. Some tool can translate text to another language. Some tool knows how to get information from documents. Some other knows how to get data from SQL. The beautiful part is, unlike, see, everybody uses chatbot now. Chatbot was at 10 years back also. I had a lot of challenges with chatbot because never will understand the intent of the person. So those chatbots used to be, you go to the bank, select one for savings bank, select two for checking account. It is like your mobile phone only. Why? Because you don't understand how to interpret that. But now, thanks to ChatGPT, whatever you ask the question, it understands your intent. And based on it, knows what to do. And of course, we do a lot of work behind the scenes to train the model so that all scenarios, all prompts, it works. So I encourage all the youngsters here to basically use all these tools to solve different problems. When you have this set of 10 or 15 ways to solve a problem, like Praveen, like you said, any problem that we have, any challenge we have, we can think about how to bring all these tools together to solve a problem. Thank you.
The chatbot was a real thing. It was just IVRI, but I had to just do it on the laptop. It gave a bad rep for chatbots back then, but I think it's far better right now. Again, now this is a slightly open question, like what I was leading on to earlier. Right? It's not that we don't have the data. Data is there, but in different silos. For example, hospitals. Let's take one of these big corporate hospitals, but they have lots of EMR data already available, but they are in silos. Everybody holds their own thing. And in fact, Raj was also mentioning a little while earlier, people have their own 5G deployments right now. There's a lot of data that's being carried, but inside a silo. In edge cloud deployments, where the data is in a silo, right? What do you think? How do you think we can actually, break these silos? And I know there's a policy aspect to it, right? But what can be done? What could perhaps be an incentive for, let's say hospitals to begin with, right? To start sharing some of this data, because I know that there's a lot of potential positive outcomes that can come out of that, from early detection of cancers to all of that stuff, Somebody, I think you can get different perspectives on the same thing. Who would like to go first?
Just a quick thing. One, we setting Hyderabad a little further. Hyderabad has the highest number of research institutes after Delhi. Delhi is mostly administrative, but Hyderabad has the highest number of research institutes. These are central government, these are state government research institutes. And they have a huge amount of data sitting with them. So let's take an example of hospital data that we talked about. There is an organization called CCMB, right? Center for Molecular Biology. They have been trying to collect disease-related data and other kind of data. They've been trying to collect it. One thing, if you can just have a policy, a way of getting that data to them, they can then democratize that data. So there's one person who's in charge of all the data for medical. Then we can, it's easy. So the way NCPI was created, can we have the Central Research Institute which have the capability of managing the data, which understand use case of data, because data is not just about having a data. It's understanding how it can be used and how that can impact, ethical, non-ethical, all of that considerations. But if you can have a central agency which is using it, and the people scientists who understand how the data can be used and misused, then those can become the places of having all the data. And make it mandatory for sharing the data. If the banks have to share my financial data, somebody can as well share my health data. So everybody is possible. So, and data can be, in a way, not be very personal, but you can at least have the data in terms of, let's say, female, so age, has this is the genetic makeup. You don't have to have my name and my phone number attached to it. So that can be sent out. I think that could start working there.
A lot of people from CCMB today, I'm hoping the message is taken. But I think we should also talk about the corporates and the private hospitals as well, Raj.
So I just wanted to say this, whose data are we talking about? It is your data and my data. The hospitals or clinics are the custodians, have a fiduciary responsibility to hold the data. They do not have the authority on it because we give the consent to them to, for the data storage and processing, etc. I think, I'm sure it's not something what I'm saying is new, they understand it. I think so that's where the policy needs to come in, to help everybody come on to the same page so that the data sharing starts happening. It is not monetized but anonymized, what she was talking about, so that everybody starts using it the way it was done in UPI. I think that is something that is already happening. I'm sure the professor would cover that at some point. That's the way forward.
Shouldn't some light on this, because what Sujit is saying is true, that the data is ours and ours, but are they actually really acting as fiduciaries or custodians, or the hospitals like to believe that they are holding the data? What is there some policy on this? How do you see this?
I mean, I don't have much to say specifically, Praveen, on the hospital question, but I wanted to unpack the question itself and ask ourselves, how serious is this lack of data, and what is it actually stopping us from doing? Many of the health applications, I agree that is a blocker. But let's take something very different, for example, text-to-speech, or speech-to-text, the opposite. So Meta has released an open source model called Massively Multilingual Speech, and the model can ID 4,000 languages, and it can do speech-to-text for 1,100 languages. So what was the data set to do that? Because when you start talking about 1,100 languages, many of the languages are resource-poor languages. That means there is no digital corpora to achieve any computation. What is the example of resource-high language? It is French. So thanks to the Canadian government, every single government document in Canada mandatorily had to be translated from English to French by very high quality translators and made publicly available. So the first language where we had very high fidelity between between the two languages of translation was English and French. So, but then there is the other end of the problem statement, which is very low resource languages. So for these 1,100 languages, for most languages, the only text that was available was the Bible. And they got a human to read the Bible, and then they trained the model on that single recording. Yeah? And it made reasonably good speech-to-text software. High error rate, obviously, because very small corpora, but even 60%, 70% accuracy is a good job for the first cut. So let's take another example. There is a non-profit in Bangalore called Agami. They have a project called Open Nyai. They have created a chatbot for domestic violence so that women can ask questions about legal remedies. If you look at the question-answer pair that they had used to create the RAG pipeline before the model, it's only 300 questions and answers. And behind it, they're using some generic language model to make it into sentences. and to respond to the context you're asking and so on. So again, you want to make a very powerful project, doesn't take so much data. It's only 300 question answer pairs, you will arrive at the project. So there is a lot of work for us to do in India, which doesn't need to wait at all for data. We just need to be very clear, what is the performance we are interested in, what is the application we are interested in, and then we can quickly move to all of that. And I wanted to break the seriousness a little bit here. I think everybody is talking about very serious use cases of AI. I wanted to share two use cases which I think are useful for us. Munshi Premchand's stories are now in the public domain. They're free of copyright. So it is possible to have the story translated using a variety of open source AI systems or even proprietary to any other language, maybe Kannada, and then a Kannadiga farmer or a Kannadiga person who is illiterate can hear Dr. Rajkumar, his favorite film star, read Munshi Premchand's story to him, and he can enjoy literature. So that's one application which we should all be very excited about, provided the children of Dr. Rajkumar allow us to use the personality rights of Dr. Rajkumar for that application. And then the other story, or the question that I keep asking everybody, is what percentage of Indian homes do you think own a personalized piece of art? So suppose in the good old days, a king wanted a portrait of himself painted. Only kings and queens had that kind of art in their homes. But today, you could potentially go to a cyber cafe if the cyber cafe owner is savvy, and they could use a model to render your grandmother or grandfather's photo in the style of Raja Ravi Varma or Amrita Shergill, and you can print it and put it in your house for about 100 rupees. This technology chain is already available to us. And imagine the profound way, because even if we estimate that 10% of Indian homes don't have this art, I suspect it is much more. My suspicion is much more. That 10% is hundreds of millions of people, and this will be a profound contribution to the quality of their lives, which is not serious, like medicine and many other serious topics that we're also talking there, because I believe the fun part of AI is going to be very exciting, and that part also should be open.
I want to add to something funny here. Right? My mother is almost 88 years old, so she can go and buy sarees. She buys for all the others and all sarees and all everywhere. So she started looking at this video things, WhatsApp and all, where people show, there is a shop owner, he keeps on showing the sarees and all, she'll be watching them, all those things. So I was thinking something like this, right? So UPI, for example, has made it so easy for anybody to buy from anywhere, right? So now so many people have been able to start from the house selling sarees, selling things and all. I was thinking AI can, what you said can be applicable. My mom can probably see the saree and see how the saree looks on her, how it looks on the person she's trying to buy, right? So I see great things can happen as a next step. So AI is really amazing that way.
I just want to add few points there based on the keynote discussion. Why would anybody doesn't share data? I think data is available everywhere, but why people hesitate to share, and why whatever available data we can train the model and be successful. I think that the underlying question, underlying thing is the quality of the data. That is the most important, because of it, just with 300 question and answers, a relatively good model can be built. Now, the fundamental thing is quality of data, but in order to get the quality of the data from any person, any organization, or even from, like, somebody asks my data, I want clarity of usage. That's the main premise. If I know why that data which I am sharing is going to be used, how it will be used, clarity of usage, where it will be deployed. one of the important aspects is the policy always kind of trails behind the innovation. Okay. And today, if we go to any application, the main once you sign up, the main disclaimer says that, are you ready to share your data? It might be used somewhere in some context. Another thing, there is no clarity in terms of how that will be used. That is the reason which I will be very much hesitant to share any of the data. So the first aspect in terms of policy making is to bring the clarity of usage. Once the clarity of usage has been stated, even though there is not a strict legal law which has been established, people will be willing to trust the system because there is a usage which has been already stated there. So quality data and clarity on the usage are the fundamental two aspects which we need to really empower everybody, and that is one of the fundamental challenges in order to really make the AI for everyone. Okay. And that is going to be the one of the first challenges, and that's where the technologists, academia, and the students need to have a platform to interact. And one of the reasons behind the slowness of growth or slowness in terms of adoption is the mentorship which I feel. When I interact with students as a part of my social responsibility to raise awareness on AI with a lot of students, what I feel is the environment where somebody can really ask any question without any reservation, okay, and then seek answers for that in a very secure way. That is missing. That's where we need to have a platform of mentorship without hesitation to create the awareness of how the data will be used, where it will be used, what will be deployed. And one of the only forum that can enable this is the open source forum. Okay. Because open source doesn't promise any employment. But one thing open source promises is the deployment. That's the fundamental importance of open source. Once you promise what you're going to deploy, then people will trust you and then people will be ready to share the information.
Absolutely. In fact, all of this stuff that we're doing is proof of that, right? You know, to the fun part, right, the Chandamama Kadalu, it's not the equivalent of the Munshi Premchand stories, but these are stories that we all grew up in. You know, Surendra was saying the same thing. There's a huge cultural connect to all of this stuff. It's a fun way that we had, in 6 hours, 10,000 students proofread around 40,000 stories that then fed into this small language model. Even the voice collection corpus activity was a fun part, right? Oh yes, sure. There are going to be a lot of fun projects, but I'll have to, go back to serious questions again. I have two questions for all of them, and probably relevant to all of us over here. Two questions for each of you. Same question, different perspectives. I know we are at the fag end of this discussion. First question is, in your opinion, what should happen, what should we do to ensure that we are the AI capital of the world? Okay. And one message to all of us over here, everybody over here for the AI days, so I'm guessing everybody's here because they want to learn and become successful in AI. Right? So what's one message that you want all of us to take away, and one key thing that you think should happen, or one thing for us to become the AI capital, whichever way you want to go? And we'll start with Surendra.
Some of the AI days gives me a kind of impression we are just few days away from the elections as well. Okay. So, this request, if we wanted to become AI capital of the world, AI capital leaders in the world, information is out there available. So go and use the best intuitive way of using AI. Understand your constituency, understand your leaders, understand your representatives, blog about them, share your feeds on them, and then make that as the most relevant topic, because the AI adoption is all about relevance and the context. If we approach any problem with the relevance and the context, I think it will be the first starting step to be called as leaders in that space. So my request or my message is, just a few days away, we're going to elect new leaders to use the AI to the best ability and share your story, how you used AI to really understand the problems of your constituency and the representation of the leaders, what they are promising, are they relevant or they context based. I think that's the fundamental message I wanted to share.
Thanks, Surinder. In fact, I'll take the second question first. What should we all be doing, right? Generally, because we interact with startups, they have a solution, they start finding the problem, right? So try and see if you can find the problem and try and solve for that problem. I think that would help you hit it off well. It doesn't matter whether you are an entrepreneur, founder, or a student, or somebody who's looking for a great job opportunity. I think what you need to do is where you want to go and what you really want to achieve is what you need to keep in mind, especially for entrepreneurs or would-be. Try and identify the problem and solve it. And for AI capital, in fact, I'm sure we are all aware that we are now $4 trillion economy. World is coming to India for market access. So if we can solve for data issues, the world will come for data as well. Just to let you know, in fact, US has got roughly about 30 foundational models, is what I read somewhere. India has got none. I think small countries like Israel or some of these, I'm not talking about China, have got probably 2 or 3 big large language models, foundational models, so for us to build on. And of course, we have got 2 great organizations that are offering open source capabilities as well. So these are the areas to look into for to respond to those questions.
Yeah, I just want to say there is always a business and IT. So I represent IT organizations in the US, India. See, the IT guys never understand business, no? Same way, AI guys never understand customers or society. So first thing that I would say is, okay, we are in colleges, schools, we learn algorithms, we learn data structures, right? We get a job, at least we know how to use the tools, how to solve. So at least in the initial days, we learn how problems are being solved, right? How to change the hairstyle of a person, how to change the dress of a person, how to write a nice article, right? My daughter does all her BB assignments using ChatGPT. Enterprises, like when we want to work with ports or airlines, they also have these big challenges. They don't have the reliable network bandwidth to use technology in ports like sensors and cameras and all. They can't. So what is happening now with new technologies like private 5G, where they are issued a bandwidth. So what I'm saying is, when technologies, players, everybody has to come and create an environment where a business problem can be solved. So my earnest request to all the people is, maybe you should go and work with companies. Say that you want to work on business kind of problems using AI. So get familiarized with it. So when different solutions, different problem comes, at least we know how to approach. Thank you.
Can I take a little different approach from you, sir? Yeah. I agree with you when you said that people don't know where to look for problems. They seem to have solutions first, and they don't have. Then half the time they come to us saying, "I have a fantastic product, no market, no funding." So my simple submission is the solution is fantastic only if there is a market. Now, coming to that, the one thing that I think India can do for AI, for any data set or any modeling, any IT that we can do, is how can we model it for the last person? Whether it is look at agri supply chain, right? We've not even thought. If you look at the way the world is looking at agri with AI, you combine the two, the things that you get is precision farming, you get things like commodity price management and things like that. In India, right now, the farmer is not, with 1 acre of land, is not really worried about how much commodity should I produce, at what price should I produce so that I can sell it. Because he's seen his neighbor, he's putting tomatoes, I'll also put tomatoes. Because last year he sold well, I'll also sell this year well. But can you then have models which can, the tomato that guy is producing, where is it going? 40% of Indian food is wasted. The production that we do is wasted. Can we build models for post-harvest? Everybody is building models for pre-harvest. Can we build models for post-harvest? Where should the cold chain be? We can have mobile cold chain storages, but where should they be when the harvest happens? Right? That's one use case. Taking another use case, let's look at traffic data. India, one of the biggest problems in most cities in India is traffic. And please somebody find a solution where there are no U-turns. My everyday morning commute is, how do I find a road to go where there is no new U-turn today? So the same traffic management data that we have can solve for ambulances, which is the best route for the ambulances to take. The same data can be used for preventing accidents, predicting accidents and preventing that. So the same data can be used for lots of small things which can then be impacted in smaller towns, smaller villages and things like that. Think of solutions that can be like UPI, which is mass, which is scalable, which is everywhere to the last person it can go to. You build models in India for that. You have best case scenarios here. Then it can be deployed everywhere in the world. So that's my submission for this.
I think it is solved. Maybe Bangalore traffic is an NP hard problem. I don't think anybody can ever, solve that. Anybody from Bangalore? No. There are some people. Oh, I'm sure it's an NP hard. I think for me it's an NP hard problem. Sorry, go ahead.
Shall I? Okay, so I'll come at this. I think the other panelists have covered the question rather comprehensively, so I'll take a slightly different approach. I think some of us here are part of what we call the free software or open source software movement. It's a community of people that use or build free and open source software. But that is just one of the many openness movements. There are many other openness movements. And the problem with AI, exactly as we had during the inaugural ceremony, is that it's a dual-use technology. It comes with some risks. Just like electricity. Electricity, even today, comes with very significant risks, but also very, very useful technology for us as the human species. So, whenever anybody is selling you some technology, they will make some claims about the risk. It is risky this way, or it is risky that way. But how can you believe those claims? The only way you can believe the claim is if it follows what is called an open science paradigm. That means the software should be open source, the training data set should be available under open data license, the full documentation of what you have done should be published under an open access scholarly paper. And that is why I would slightly resist this point that India has no foundational models. Because many of these foundational models, they are even if they are proprietary models, they are released alongside with a paper which will explain the model. You should just go and look at the names of the authors in those papers. You will see many, many Indians. So India as a country may not have built models, but Indians have definitely built some of these key foundational models, including Llama 2. We have Indian authors building them. So what should you do to be part of this open science movement? Because that is the critical moment if we want to solve the data problem. According to DST, Department of Science and Technology, and Department of Biotechnology, they have an open access policy. That means every year they give $0.85 billion to Indian researchers as grants. But the expectation is, once you do the research should be published under open access license. That is the expectation. All we can as citizens say to these professors, please also release the data set. So that in the tradition of replicability of science, some other scientists can also repeat the process and check whether your scientific claims are correct. If there is a culture of releasing data sets in India by state governments, by scientists, then these data sets will be available for us to do other things. There will be a culture of open data sets being broadly available. So I encourage each one of you, because this $0.85 billion of research is your money. The intellectual property that has been created by that is licensed to you mandatorily by government policy. You own that, you're a custodian of that IP, push that IP in a further open direction, which is going to help all of us secure this leading position on AI technology.
Since you brought it up, I think it's a pet peeve of ours, but let's take this as a challenge. Open access journals, the Elseviers and the Springers of the world charge thousands of dollars just to publish one piece of paper. Per page is I think approximately $100 or beyond for any open access journal. The problem is there needs to be scopus indexing and all of that stuff. Can we today, take a stance, say that, we are going to come up with our own open access journal, not relying on the Elseviers and the Springers of the world, but to also, at some point get into the scopus as well, because we can't start with a scopus index journal.
I mean, we need not be obsessed with journals, at least for some domains like AI.
Scopus is the
because
problem.
Some of the best papers in AI are not in journals. They are outside journals.
No, it is something that I think we should go for the next 1 year. Yes. If we can actually come up with our own peer-reviewed conference, proceedings, which are open access, and that is a huge thing, because even if you are the author right now, you can't even go and look at your own paper. That is something that we should definitely work towards. Open science, open source software. If you want India to become the AI capital without any of this stuff, it's absolutely impossible. Let's work together on that. So it's an open call to everybody over here. Let's work together, create that open access system, open access conference proceedings, whatever that is. I think we should work towards it. But Raj, okay. You want to say something? All right. So we have come to the end of it. I have a small message to give to all of you as well. While they're talking about AI, society, all the serious topics, as Sunil said, I have a slightly more fun thing to say. How do I make AI us as the AI capital? Is first of all by letting the word go out. AI days, AI for society. Might I request that how many of you are on LinkedIn over here? I think you should take a photo and put it to Microsoft. So we should perhaps do this. Can we tag hashtag AI days? What do we do? Maybe we just go back to the previous session. There was a UPI story, right? It had brought out different emotions in all of us. Some of you felt proud, some of you felt, oh, this is good, inspired, whatever it is. Maybe we can do this. I watched, put the link to the story. At AI days, hashtag AI days. All of us, I see more than 1,000, 1,500 people in the auditorium. All of us together, can make a big bang, right? Put out, post on LinkedIn. So you watch this story, hashtag AI days 2024. Put out the emotion, whatever you have felt, okay? And then nominate 3 of your friends, each of us. I know this goes back to that, ice bucket challenge, but maybe, sorry, we are not doing this on Facebook any longer. But we'll perhaps do this on LinkedIn, okay? Just because Surendra is sitting closer to me, right? We'll do this on LinkedIn maybe, okay? Why don't we do that? Hashtag AI days. There's a good photo booth outside. You can take a photo over there, post it on your LinkedIn. Bhavneet was saying in the morning, you don't feel shame to ask for appreciation, promotion. I think we should appreciate all of us. This is a huge thing. I see a lot of energetic faces over here. Why don't we do that? Take a photo over there or something, put it on LinkedIn, say that you watched this at hashtag AI days. Sahiti will kill me if I don't give the correct hashtag, which is I'm not saying it out. Sahiti, AI days. Hashtag. See, Naveen is already ready to kill me. Hashtag AI for society, but please also hashtag AI days. I think this is one way. These sort of conferences will actually allow us to become the AI capital. I don't think there is ever another conference like this where lots of people, we have Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Google, everybody come and talk about all of these things. We have the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We have people who are really working on AI projects, and we have the open source community, which is creating all of these things. So they're already bored of looking at my face. So What I will do is, I'll thank all of you. Thank you for taking your time out. Thank you for, sharing us, your experiences, knowledge, and thank you for, having us. What we will do is we'll go for a lunch break, and post lunch we have the parallel tracks. All of you have your handouts. There will be slight changes in updates. Why don't you go to the website? Go to the website aidays.io. The schedule gets updated over there if there are any updates over there. Please have your lunch and let's come back to our tracks once you're back. We should be back by around 1:45. 45 minutes is a good lunch break. Too much of a lunch, and I will to come back and sleep. So now let's keep a light lunch, 45-minute break. Let's come back to the conference rooms. Thank you once again. There are photo booths out there. Please do take photos. I don't think I need to tell this audience that they need to take photos, right? Thank you everyone. Once again, thank you.